Mike.
Welcome back to the A&M podcast.
Happy Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday, or whatever day you're listening to it.
True. Good morning,
'Cause,
good night, good
yeah,
evening, good
whatever,
afternoon.
whatever. Yeah, it's funny because like that's a struggle that I have at work because there's people all over the world, and I'll get on calls at like 1 o'clock my time, and I'll say morning or good afternoon. It's morning or whatever. Or I'll get on in the morning, and it's somebody in Germany, and it's like the
Oh
end of
yeah.
their day, and I'm saying good morning.
I know this morning actually I was working and man, like I used to start at like 7 a.m., but I'm not even gonna lie, I kind of switched my time to 8.
Yeah.
7 seems so early
Mm,
sometimes. Like
yeah.
it's really hard to wake up early
Yeah.
for me sometimes.
Yeah.
But I was up around like 7:30, 8 o'clock working. So by 10 o'clock, I had already been working for a few hours. I got a few things done, and I messaged one of the people on my team something. And, on Slack, if someone's in a different time zone than you, it'll be like, so and so, it's
Oh,
this
right. It
time
tells you. Yeah.
where they're at. And it
Yeah.
said for her, because she lives out in California,
Yeah.
it was like, it's 7:05
Yeah. Yeah.
a.m. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
she's not even getting her day started yet.
Right.
Like, I'm over here. Hey, just so you know, this and that.
Yeah. Like, whoa, slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. But by the way, our topic this time is this rolls right into that is remote work.
Uh,
There's been a lot of attention, I guess, recently with remote workers because of the changes that the federal government's doing as far as people who were, and I'm a little confused by that, by
I would be
when they
so
talk about it.
upset.
Well, I mean, because the things that I'm hearing, it sounds like they're talking about people who are like getting paychecks but aren't actually working, which to me is different than, and they're saying, well, you either got to go into it to the office and work, or you're gone. Which to me is different from remote workers because when you're a remote worker, you're actually working. You're just working, remotely.
I took it as like saying that you can't work as good, like just that older
Right.
mindset of
Right.
no, if you're working from home, no way can you be doing a good job
Yeah.
working from
Yeah.
home.
I think the mental mindset is, and I think a lot
I
of it
think it's
comes
someone
from,
who's never worked from home before
yeah, I think
saying
a lot
that.
of it comes from people who haven't worked from home or can't work from home. Like
Yeah.
like the ones I hear all the time are like news media people.
Like
Well,
their jobs that
obviously,
they can't.
yeah, obviously they can't work from home.
Mhm.
But actually, what's funny though? I think some of them did during COVID, and I think
Oh
so.
yeah, I remember those videos.
Yeah, it was
And it
weird.
didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work. That did not work.
Their kids are like coming in the room in the
Yeah,
background
yeah, yeah,
behind them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, so I've been working remotely since like before COVID, before it became big.
Mhm.
Probably about several years actually before COVID, I was working remotely.
Yeah.
And then once COVID, and the company that I worked for then wasn't 100% remote. It was just I happened to be able to, get them. They were located in another state, and they hired me and were okay with me working remote. But then, once COVID hit, like a bunch of companies started doing that,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of talk now of companies moving back the other way. I was reading, I forget
And
what
I don't
company it was.
understand that
Yeah, I mean,
unless they found within their company that productivity really wasn't there, but
that could
I
be.
think it depends on the person. I think it
Depends.
depends.
Yeah.
Like I remember back in school, I remember when I actually, not high school, but like when I was in college for that short amount of time. When when I remember it was a math class and I had to take it twice. And I remember the second time I took it, it was like an online class,
Mhm.
and I passed with flying colors. Not because I cheated or anything like that, but I just I think
You
certain
absorbed
people,
it better.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think certain people just work better, like
Like
in their own
self-paced and.
space, like yeah, doing
Mm-hmm.
their own thing, like
Mm-hmm.
if you're a self-starter and you're able to
Well,
get up and actually be responsible on getting up on time and getting your work
yeah.
done, and you don't have your manager walking past your office or your desk constantly throughout the day. So,
Right.
you kind of have to like
Keep yourself
keep
motivated.
yourself
Yeah.
motivated.
And
Not
I
everyone's like
also
that.
think like the type of people who are gonna, take negative advantage of the fact that you work remote are like those same people when they're working in the office are gonna be not productive either. It's
Yeah.
we're heading into March Madness now. It's the guy who is spending his whole day, working on his March Madness brackets and the guy who's spending like half the day setting up the office, betting pool for March Madness and that kind of thing. Or the guy who like walks around all day with a cup of coffee in his
Just
hand,
talking
going to
to
people's
everyone.
desks and
Yeah.
talking to them, and
True.
I'm not hating on those people, but I'm saying like, somebody who is going to like take negative advantage of working remote is also not going to be somebody who's working productively in the office. I
Yeah.
think there are some
I agree.
people that, and I've known people that remote work isn't for them. It's not
Uh-huh.
they need that face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
I'm lucky now, and I don't know about your place. Your place is 100% remote,
They are.
but the company that
I
I
mean, they
work
have an
for,
office, but nobody, like, there's no chance of.
yeah,
Everyone's too spread out at this point.
right,
Like, they
yeah,
would
that's the
lose
same,
all of their workers,
yeah,
but it's not like.
and that's the same where I am. Like the company I work for
Mhm.
started in the U.S. during COVID, like right
Yeah.
at the beginning of all the COVID shutdowns. So for them to even start up the business, they had to be remote,
Mhm.
and they've been 100% remote like since then,
Mhm.
and it's worked out well. It's worked out really well.
Mhm.
And I think what people overlook with the advantage to um, to step back, I think a lot of the companies now that are like saying no, we're going
As my
back in
email's going
office. Yeah, that's. Well, do you want to check that?
No, it's because
By the way,
it's
just
because
just
they're
to
in
be
a different
clear,
time
yeah,
zone.
just to be clear, it's past the end of both our work days.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's also what's funny though is that is because my manager is 3 hours behind me. It'll
right,
be like 8 or 9 p.m.
right,
and she'll still be sending me emails.
yeah,
I'm like,
you,
go
you
to bed.
yeah,
Oh, sorry, it's only 5, 6 o'clock where you're at.
yeah, right,
My
right,
bad.
right. But I think a lot of the companies that have like made a push to go back into the office,
Yeah.
it's been for the wrong reasons too, because it's been,
Mhm.
well, we've got this office space that we're paying
Yeah.
for, and so we're going to use it.
And they
And
have leases on them too, so they
yeah,
can't just not pay for it.
yeah, but like that's not a good reason.
Yeah.
If matter of fact, like the way I always looked at remote work and not every job can do remote work, right? Like a plumber or an electrician can't do remote work until they invent robots that can go to your house. But um, and then you really wouldn't need the plumber or the electrician; it would just be the robot. But anyway, I digress. The if it's a job that you can do remotely, the advantage to me for somebody, for the company is you're now able to like increase your hiring pool
Yeah.
to basically the entire world, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the same thing for the job seeker is I can look anywhere in the world for a job rather than something that's within commutable distance. And the same thing for company hiring. If you're hiring and you need people to come into the office, they've got to be within a commutable distance of that office.
Mhm.
And so you're kind of shrinking your available pool of people to the best person within what, a 1 hour distance
Yeah.
versus the best person, period.
And I think what it comes down to is, for me, at least, and what I do is, I feel like what all I need to be able to do is my job from home. Like everything else, training is able to be done, but after you're out of training, as long as I have the tools to do my job, it's really all that matters. I
Right.
mean, sometimes I will say, like, maybe if you're at home and you like the little bit of communication with your coworkers, maybe you'd miss it at home. But,
Right.
I like waking up early, getting my job done, and by 3 o'clock, I'm done. I'm
Right.
out.
Right.
And, like, that's it. Um, but I also feel like meetings, well, eh, like you look, I guess I don't want to say you look forward to meetings more, but it's kind of like, okay, I just got to get through this meeting
Right.
instead of my meetings when I was in an office.
Yeah.
They would last way longer. We would just
Oh
sit there
yeah.
and talk.
Well, yeah, and the thing too is like now, I
Yeah, some
will say
people
I
do that
probably
now.
have more Zoom calls now
Yeah.
than I, would have had meetings like back in the day when I did go into an office. But that's
Hmm.
because back in the day when I did go to an office, if somebody had an issue they had to talk to me about, they'd walk over to my desk and say, "Hey, we have this problem," or "Hey, we're trying to do this thing." And
Yeah.
now, you got to do it, over video conferencing. So
Yeah, but technology
that's
has
different.
improved, I
It
think,
has.
as
It
well,
definitely
because
has.
so many people have worked from home, like Slack.
Right.
Slack was down the other day, worldwide
Um,
apparently,
you know what?
and it made me log out on my computer, but I had to log
That's
out on my
funny.
phone.
The interesting thing is I didn't know, and I found out because I was on a global call, a call with
Hmm.
the German uh, the German team,
Hmm.
and somebody messaged in the, I think it was a Zoom call, so they messaged in the chat there, "Hey, Slack is back up," and I was like, "Oh, it was down? I
Hmm.
didn't even know it was down."
Yeah, I saw something online about it, but it never really affected me.
Yeah,
But
same.
I feel like,
Obviously.
tools like that, they tremendously help
Oh,
because like I have so many group chats. I have group chats with like my main team, with the whole team. Like
right,
there's chats with like the whole company. It's
right.
like a family circle type of thing where they'll
Mm-hmm.
put little like, this or that type of things in there to
Right.
kind of get people engaged. And even, some of our meetings because we haven't recently, which I'm not even gonna lie, I kind of hate it, but recently they want everyone to kind of just know each other more because obviously when you're in an office you get to know your coworkers on a
Right.
different level,
Yeah.
um, because you're around
Well,
them,
yeah,
so
because
you're
you might
communicating.
go to lunch with a coworker or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Or they're just like near you,
Right.
or I
Right.
don't know, it's just obvious, naturally it's easier to communicate.
Right.
But
Right.
when you're working from home, besides little small talk in the beginning of a meeting or something, you're not
Right.
really communicating with them. You don't really
Right.
know anything about them. You don't know if they're married, if they have kids,
Right.
nothing.
Right.
So recently in our weekly call, they've been doing this get to know each other type of thing.
That's
And they're picking two people each time. I haven't volunteered yet because I get shy with that stuff. But they want you to, like,
no.
people are making little slideshows, like,
Yeah.
oh, I have kids, and I have, and that I've been married for this many years, and this
Yeah.
is my dog, and I like to go hiking on the weekend,
It's
and
funny because one of the things that tends to happen on the calls that I'm on, especially especially the calls with like larger groups,
uh-huh.
is somebody will be there and they'll be sitting with their their child or their pet on their lap.
Oh yeah.
That happens a lot, which is
Uh-huh.
I think that's kind of funny. I think that's
Uh-huh.
kind of cool. Actually, the company that I worked for before this one that I was remote, but they had an office. The person that was my boss actually had a policy of allowing pets in the office, and he
Oh,
would
that's
he would
funny.
bring his dog in the office and had a dog bed in the corner of his office for him, and I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, I think
Hmm.
that is one of the tougher aspects of it is you don't, because like now where I am now, this, I just got back
Yeah.
last week, was I at uh, like an leadership meeting that
Hmm.
was on the other coast, and those kind of things are good for team building. I will say that, like, it helps to get to some face-to-face time with people. I always said that when you're working remote, every now and then it is good to get, when I was working for the company in Pennsylvania and I would go up there, it was always good to get some of that face-to-face time with people. I mean, that
Hmm.
is a good thing. I think for remote workers, that's, if you can do it, if it allows it, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I think if you do it too much, it becomes draining. But
Yeah,
I
for
think,
sure.
occasionally it's a good thing to do just because, it does get a little bit more of that, what you're talking about, where you get to know people a little bit better.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, even in my in-office jobs, I've met some like good friends through working,
Right.
but you know, I also don't miss it either. You know what I also like about working from home is you don't have that like, or I should say as much of that
Oh, the office politics.
the office, yeah, like
Yeah, yeah, office
drama and
drama. Yeah,
all that
I
stuff.
that's completely true. Now, I would say,
Like the she's her phone's ringing off the hook.
yeah,
She's not
yeah.
picking it up. Look, she doesn't answer any of
Or,
her calls. Like
gosh,
she
every
doesn't
time I
do
go
any
over
work.
to their desk, they're just texting. Yeah,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
you don't have to worry
Yeah,
about any of that.
I think, I think if there's something that I would say that's a potential like negative or challenge, not even a negative, a challenge when you're working remote is kind of disconnecting yourself from work. Like
Yeah.
there's you when like me. I mean, when I get up in the morning, like when I'm done all my morning stuff and I've made my coffee, I sit down and I start working, and that's probably 2 hours before, you know, when from a schedule standpoint I'm expected to be working, and I don't mind it because I'm sitting there and I'm not doing anything anyway. Um,
Yeah.
but there is that danger that you can't disconnect. I mean, I that's not that much of a challenge for me because I balance it well enough. But
Mhm.
some people it can become that you're just always working, and then depending on who you are, you can like burn yourself out. So that's another danger of it. But
Yeah, like if I see an issue come through, like no, exactly. When I was working in an office, when I'm done, I'm done. I
Mhm.
walk out of the building, my computer's at my desk, I'm
Right,
done for the day.
right,
I'm going home. I'm not worrying about it. I'm so disconnected from it. But obviously when you're working from home, my laptop's right there. Like
right,
if I see an email come through or something like that, or even
right,
just in terms of if I have a lot to do, it's natural to work longer or oh, let me just log on and, you know.
right. And where, like, on the productivity side, I think though, where being a remote worker, you're better is, we're talking about, like, you get up in the morning and you kind of ease into your day, right?
Yeah.
So you get your coffee, you start working. When you're working in an office, you've got to get up earlier. You've got to get
Mhm.
yourself, you got to get dressed for work and get ready to, your drive to work and all that. Um, and then probably the first half hour at least of your time at the office, you're just getting yourself settled. So, you go to your
Mhm.
desk, maybe you go to the break room and you get yourself some coffee, and you
Mhm.
go back to your desk, and you sit down, and you're dealing with people coming over to your desk, and oh, how was your day, and
Yeah, how
all
was your
that stuff.
weekend?
Yeah, so I would say like the first hour of your day and the last hour of your day when you're working in an office, because the last hour your brain's like, okay, it's almost the end of the day, and you kind of mentally, whether you realize it or not, start winding down. And so, first hour of your day is not real productive. Last hour of your day, not real productive. When I'm working from home, it's different because I don't have to think about a commute.
Yeah,
So,
which is just
yeah,
so,
daunting.
oh my
Yeah, yeah,
gosh.
yeah. Especially if you're in an area where there's high traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
that
probably
was
one of the
such a,
things that I'm most because I'm even less likely to be like, okay, it's the end of the day, I'm logging off. If I've got something going on, I'll just keep doing it until I'm done. Because
but,
if I was if I was working in an office and I'm done at 5 o'clock, say, and I've got a 40-minute commute, then I'm not really, you know getting personal time until, you know 5:45, 6 o'clock, something like that.
yeah, but also like, I remember I hated the getting up and getting ready. That
Yeah.
was just, it was nice to, get dressed because even now I feel much better about my day when I wake up and I get myself a little bit ready
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff like that. But, I also have the option to stay in my PJs for the first 2 hours
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then get ready. Or, at the end of the day, I, when you're in an office, I remember sometimes when I was in an office at the end of the day, you're in your last 30 minutes or whatever. It's a Friday or
Oh
something
yeah.
like that, and you don't really have that much more to do. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to get started on something. Like,
Yeah, you
At
don't
that
want to
point,
start
everything's a
something.
Monday problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Exactly.
I have to sit there at that desk
Right.
for 30 minutes because my leave time isn't until 4 or 5 or something like that. So I gotta
Right.
sit there and just wait it out basically and pretend to be working.
Right.
Whereas when you're at home, your downtime is much more productive. Oh
Right.
my god, I gotta
Yeah.
sneeze.
Right. Okay. Well,
My eyes are tearing. If it looks like
oh
I'm
no.
crying, it's
It's
because I
because I
am.
am. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's true too, and I think another thing that I've said before is like, if you're working remote, I really don't use sick time
Yeah.
unless I'm like down for the count sick.
Uh-huh.
When I worked in an office, if I woke up with a bad sinus headache, I'm not driving to work. I'm not getting behind the wheel of the car with a bad sinus headache because
Yeah.
they're debilitating.
And
But
definitely I'm not trying to
guess
sit
what?
at
I
my
can.
desk feeling
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. But guess what? I can work
Yeah.
while I feel that way. At home, especially, I can work because it's a more relaxed, personal environment. So maybe I'm not working at 100% efficiency, but I'm still getting work done. So
Even
I think
even
that's an
sometimes
advantage, a real advantage too.
my manager sometimes she'll be like she gets migraines a lot. She'll be
Yeah,
like, "Hey guys, I got a migraine this morning. Like
yeah,
I'm here, but I'll be on for real in a couple hours." And
yeah,
she'll
yeah,
like you're able to lay down and then when you feel better, like your computer's right there. You can
yeah,
log on or
exactly.
even vacation wise. Like think about when we would go to the beach house
Right,
and if you just had an in-office job and weren't able to work remote, you would have taken that whole week or whatever, week and a
right,
half
right,
off. You would have had to use vacation time. They
right,
would have just been without you for that whole time.
right,
But
right. Yeah, and that's
because,
and that's an example where again it's better for the employee because
yeah,
you can utilize your personal time better,
yeah,
and it's better for the company because somebody who, otherwise would be like, I'm on vacation, I'm not, here.
yeah,
Like you're talking about when we were at those vacation rentals. Yeah, I worked
mm-hmm,
the whole day while everybody else was having fun, but I was at the beach, so it was a better work day.
yeah. You were still
So
able to like hang out with us right after.
yeah,
You're still able to be there.
yeah, like my evenings were like a mini vacations
Yeah.
those days. So yeah, that was
Like if I
that's
had the
another.
schedule I have now last summer when y'all went, I would have
Yeah,
totally been able to go because I'm done by like 3. That's plenty of time.
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, you can still make use of the time. Um, yeah, and I think there's such a tendency now with the stuff that, and I get why they're doing it. I get it's kind of like the whole thing with Doge with them. You heard about that where they sent emails out to people saying, reply to this email by tomorrow with 5 things you got done last week, and it wasn't.
What?
Yeah, and it wasn't. Yeah, I guess people were taking it as, oh, see, they're gonna if you didn't get enough done or you didn't get, they don't agree with
Uh-huh.
what you got done, they're gonna fire you,
Yeah.
and that wasn't it at all. It was and our government is so big that this kind of stuff can happen. The idea was that people were like collecting paychecks and they were still on the payroll and they weren't working. Like they were not working. And
Mm.
so the
Yeah, but
idea
that's the
was if you
managers and
didn't get that email
supervisors.
and you or if you got that email and weren't responding to it, that means you're probably not working. Now somebody's on vacation, obviously somebody's,
Yeah.
hopefully somebody's aware of that kind of thing. But it's the same as that whole thing with the social security rolls where they found people who were like, if you went by the date of
Oh,
birth on file and they were
like
not listed as
150 years
deceased, they were
old.
150 years old and they were getting social security paychecks.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
like that's a whole other discussion. Again,
Yeah.
people who aren't doing their jobs, but they're not going into an office. They're not doing their jobs. So that's a different question than people who work remotely. And
Yeah.
I think there are some managers who aren't comfortable with people working remotely, but I think that's more of a reflection on them as a manager
Because they got to do a lot more follow up.
well, and it kind of it's harder to manage people when you're remote because you can't judge it based on, I see Bob sitting there at his desk every day and he's
Yeah.
looking at his computer screen, so clearly he comes in and works.
Mhm.
you've got to be able to judge based on the kind of the quantity of and the quality of the work that people are getting done, which means you have to be more connected to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so that it is harder to manage people like remotely like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you have difficulty managing somebody remotely, you're, you know, I don't know how effective you are as a manager with somebody in there, because you're the way you're judging how, the quality and quantity of their work, it's based on they're sitting at their desk typing away or whatever, you know.
Yeah, like I know with my company, like we have weekly um meetings where we talk about all of our like financials and all that stuff as a
Right.
group. And then we also have, a 30-minute team call.
Right.
And it's like me and the whole team and my manager. And
Right.
there's probably about, I would say like 15 of us or maybe more, I don't know.
Right.
But, and that's just like she tells us everything important. The financials call, that's when we go over everything important, and you kind of have that moment to connect, and it's a
Right.
weekly thing pretty much.
Right.
So, there's also that part that helps because
Sure.
I feel like it's easier on the manager. But, I remember that one company that I worked for, and I won't put them on blast on my podcast, but maybe one day I will. Um, but when I got called to corporate and the big man upstairs, and I'm not talking about Jesus, he called me down there and I wanted to work remote. It's a whole long story. Maybe we'll talk about it one time. But he was just an older person that was very anti remote work. And this was around COVID time, so it was still also very new to people, which I
Right.
get. But he had told me like, managers can't do their best job. Managers can't be the best manager that they can be if they're working from home, if you're
Yeah.
working from home.
Yeah.
And, I kind of think that that's a little bit of a cop out. I think
Yeah.
if anything, it shows off your manager skills and
Sure.
how well you can manage a team when they're not just right next to you. I think it shows
Yep.
how well your employees are when, they're not just dependent on, oh, okay, well, as long as, I'm sitting here at my desk and my manager might walk by and I'll just pretend I'm working, but then
Right.
other times, like, I'm just sitting here on Instagram,
I
still
mean,
not doing anything. Like,
yeah, because if like that person who's not doing their work, just because they're coming into the office and you're
yeah,
judging their, their performance based on that, I guess. Like, ultimately that person's getting a bad performance review anyway, because
right.
they're not getting done what they should be getting done. So
Like, I doubt their numbers are great.
yeah, either you're giving them slack, you're kind of cutting them some slack and saying, well,
Mm-hmm.
they struggle with it or whatever,
Yeah.
or you're just not recognizing it. But
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly it. Like, yes, it's harder to manage people remotely, but like in what I do, like we have you know service companies, I guess you'd call them consultants, that we use for a lot of things, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
exact same thing. It's the exact same thing that
Yeah.
the projects that we have them work on or that kind of thing, like, have to be managed the same way that you'd manage something that you have somebody who's on your staff, you know um,
You just have to
how
be
you would
better with
manage that.
communication, but I
Yeah.
feel like you also get used to like the constant communication too, because
Right.
I think that's just something that I've personally just gotten better with over time. Like, you really do focus on your keeping up with your emails and
Sure. Sure.
your chats
Yeah,
and
and the chat tools help. They
hmm
definitely help, because when you need to get somebody, you can get them. I mean, that's there's a dead sign, right? If you use something like Slack or Teams, and every time you go to message somebody, it takes them an hour and a half to get back to you. Maybe that's somebody you need to have a discussion with. But
right, like I got it on my
yeah,
phone. Regretfully sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. But I also have it set so that it only buzzes me during my working hours because otherwise I just get annoyed by because we are like
Sometimes I like to know what's going on.
we have people in Germany that are 6 hours I think it is ahead of us, and I've got people on the West Coast that are 3 hours behind us, so
Sometimes I
it's all
like to
that.
know what I'm walking into the next day.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's I guess that's my thoughts on remote work, though. I'd be curious, anybody listening, what they think. Do you work remote? Do you not work remote?
Do you
Why do
want
you
to
not
work
work
from
remote? Would you
remote?
like to work
Do you want
remote?
to work for the A&M podcast
Yeah,
remotely?
because
Drop your
we're not
application.
hiring. Actually, we're not hiring. Because we have no budget.
We have a
So
full staff. Oh yeah, and no budget.
and no budget.
Because
So
we have a full
if you
staff.
like working remote for free, you know, hit us up. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.